Welcome back, everybody. Always love when Tony Khan is on the show. He's honest, but he's also a difficult interview to pin down sometimes, and he goes heavy into promo mode. So I'm going to try to get a lot of the promotion out of the way on the front end, and I'll keep reminding people that All In on pay-per-view live from Wembley Stadium, August 25th. This was a great event. I had the pleasure of going last year. I'm sad to see that from yesterday's announcement that the next edition of All In next year is going to be in Arlington, Texas. I'll probably be at that one. But is this the end of the Wembley run? Not at all. Tony, you wear many hats, and I could see you've already you've done interviews in this Warner Brothers Discovery hat previously, and I think you're doing that with intention, and we're glad to have you. We love our partnership with Max. Welcome aboard, Tony. Is this the final AEW show at Wembley?
No, definitely not. We love having AEW at Wembley Stadium, and we're back in 2026 in England. This year, we're going to be doing a huge event. It's coming up actually days from now. It's next weekend, August 25th on Sunday. Kind of an early start for AEW on pay-per-view since we're running over in London. We're going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And again, that's next Sunday on pay-per-view. It's going to be a huge, huge event. We're calling it the Final Countdown, as it's title versus career, with Bryan Danielson, one of the greatest wrestlers ever, putting his career on the line versus the World Championship held by Swerve Strickland, and so much more. Next year, the show will be at Arlington's Globe Life Field, home of the world champion Texas Rangers. Should be a great show. Absolutely, we love doing the show in England, and we will be back in England in 2026. And you can bet you'll see us there in 2025 as well. It won't be AEW All In. It'll be something different, but we've got some big plans coming up next year as well. It's a great time for AEW. Like you said, I do wear this hat proudly, and a lot of exciting things coming for AEW.
Yeah, you've teased a big announcement coming up for AEW. A lot of people think it might have to do with the hat that you're wearing. A lot of people think it might have to do with Shane McMahon. I imagine you're enjoying keeping the people guessing. You've talked some, and you've been careful with your words, and I've heard Shane McMahon even release a statement via Busted Open a little bit. There's a crazy conspiracy out there on the internet that this leak, the call, was coming from inside the house because it got people talking, and whatever conversations happened there, if a negotiation followed and whatnot, it's just great to have this stuff out there. Can you confirm or deny that the call came from inside the house here, Tony, when it came to this leaked photo of you with Shane McMahon? That was the first ever meeting between you two, yes?
That was the first time we ever met.
Hold on, I got a quick question. Is it the only time you've ever met?
Yes.
You haven't met
since
then? You haven't met since?
Not since, no. It's been a very busy time since then on many, many levels. So that's the only time we've met in person. I really enjoyed talking with him. I did not place that call from inside the house, but
you would have picked a more flattering photo of yourself. If the call did indeed come from the house, you probably would have picked a better photo that didn't catch you so much by surprise. It literally looks like someone just sprung in and said, "Hey, I'm leaking this on the internet."
I mean, nobody said anything, but somebody did just pop in, and it was kind of weird.
Do you want to reveal who took the photo? There have been certain people taking credit for this all over the internet. Can you reveal who is behind that photo?
I think somebody who works at the airport. But,
really? So someone that worked at the airport just kicked a door down, barged in, took a photo of this meeting of two huge wrestling personalities and just posted it?
I mean, we were just talking in the airport lounge, having a really nice chat as the photo kind of evidence. And somebody just walked in kind of like they were on their phone and, oops, sorry, and then walked away. I think that's probably what it was. It wasn't like that slick. But also, it's not like a top secret thing. I just wanted to have a nice conversation with him. I've heard a lot of nice things about him. We have a bunch of mutual friends, and we were both in Dallas. They said, you guys should meet up. So we met up at the airport, and it was a nice talk. And I thought he's a very respectful and respectable person, and somebody I really enjoyed talking to.
Well, a lot of people are having their minds wander into really fun and creative places. And so we'll leave the Shane McMahon talk there. I do want to talk to you about a very exciting time for one of your other jobs, sporting director over at Fulham. By the way, credit on those Fulham kits that I saw with the AEW sponsorship. That's a great corporate synergy there. But You guys won last year at Old Trafford. You're kicking off the season today against Manchester United. You won there for the first time in 20 years. What are your hopes, expectations? Naturally, Fulham had previously been a bit of a yo-yo club. You guys stayed up now. So what is the move here for Fulham? You guys have a big fancy stadium. Did I read correctly that you're putting a jacuzzi out? You have a club lounge where you're going to put a jacuzzi out in London in December? I'm not really sure. Are you actually doing that? Is that confirmed?
Well, I'm the sporting director, so I don't spend as much time on that aspect of it. But I do think that we're going to have really great hospitality, and the Riverside Stand and the new Craven Cottage is going to be one of the most fun places to be in all of football, in all of the world. I think it's going to be really, really great for the fans, and it's something people have been looking forward to for a long time, finishing all the developments at Craven Cottage, which is one of the most classic, beautiful stadiums in all of English football. And right now, we're in an exciting place with Fulham. Like you said, we stayed up last year. We're looking forward to a great Premier League season that kicks off hours from now today. We're really excited about it. We've had some exciting new players come in. We have a great coach. There's a lot of really great things happening at the club right now, and excited about the season starting tonight.
I'm curious your thoughts. I assume you support the U.S. soccer program. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the hire of Pochettino as a head man now for the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, a big name on the club soccer side. You've had teams line up against him, and you've had varying degrees of success against Pochettino-led teams. I'm curious. I like the message that it sends to the fans because it's a big, splashy hire, and I think it presents a pretty clear upgrade. I was curious if you had any thoughts on the U.S. national team hire.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. It's great news for the U.S. team, and for Fulham, it's very relevant because traditionally there have been Fulham players on the U.S. team. As long as I've been here, we've always had involvement from Fulham in the U.S. team. And for people who don't know, about half the goals, I think exactly half the goals that have been scored in the history of the Premier League by American players, half of them have been by Fulham alone. We have a great tradition of American players. A number of Americans have gone to Fulham and won Player of the Season. That includes now our reigning player of the season, Anthony Robinson, Jedi. And Jedi is a big part of the U.S. national team. He's a top player for Fulham and the U.S. So definitely we have a lot of good common ground with Fulham and U.S. football. Really, really excited about that appointment. And I think that'll be great for the U.S. team.
All right, I'm going to ask you to put your Warner Brothers Discovery hat back on now that we had the Fulham hat on previously. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was in the news. Turner loses the NBA rights. Is going to be their final season with it. And it was announced that no matter what, Charles Barkley is going to stay with Turner. Now, that's great. A crazy, once-in-a-lifetime unicorn personality, but they may not have NBA rights. So there were plenty of people wondering. He's done stuff on their NHL coverage before, and he's been plenty good at that. They have some other properties, though. Is there a world in which Charles Barkley finds his way over to AEW programming?
I don't know. It's a great question. Charles Barkley is a wrestling fan, I think.
Yeah, huge fan.
We presented the Inside the NBA team with AEW championship belts, and he was great and very gracious. We've worked with Shaq, and Shaq is one of the greatest human beings I've ever met or worked with in my entire life. I know that Shaq has been great to AEW. I don't know exactly what the future of the NBA holds, but, Charles Barkley, as far as being one of the top hosts in all of sports, as far as being one of the most entertaining people on all of television, I think he adds to any sport he's involved in. So if he wanted to come to AEW, we would love that. And absolutely, I would encourage that and support that.
You mentioned the Shaq thing, and there's an open loop when it comes to Shaq's appearance on AEW that's always kind of bothered me. He was on a stretcher, and he just disappeared. He disappeared, and no one really knew where Shaq went. It was like all of a sudden he became The Undertaker. He had these mystical powers. Can you close the loop? What happened to Shaq?
I don't think it serves us well to close the loop because I think that Shaq wanted to leave it open-ended for him to come back. And he saw that being a really good cliffhanger to his return. And I think he's right because people are still talking about it. And it's been 3.5 years. And I think what he was going for clearly worked because he wanted a cliffhanger that leads to his return. And when Shaq's ready to wrestle again, that will be a perfect entry point for him to return to the world of professional wrestling that I know he enjoys very much. And we loved having Shaq in AEW so much.
All right, I got a ton of questions, so I'm going to try to tighten them up so I can fit in as much as I can here. Hologram, this was different, and I read reports, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, because I want to make sure I had this right, that this was a character that was in development for a long time before you even casted the performer for it, and the presentation's really cool, and it kind of harkened back to a bygone era in which you see occasionally on these old IG accounts like sketch work of like what Kane would look like, and they had conceived these characters and before they even casted the performer. That's not really something that AEW had done much of. How's your experience with this character gone? I think the reception's been good to it, and I kind of want to see more of this. Build out a character first. It would be great if it's a character that can actually do character work and talk a little bit on the mic a little bit. We'll see if that's in the cards for Hologram too, but if your experience with it has been as good as what it appears to be the audience seems to be in pretty good consensus with, are you going to be doing more of that, creating characters and then casting the performer afterwards?
Well, I'm glad there's been great reception, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it, Mike. It's been really exciting for us to have a top young luchador, a top young wrestler from Mexico come here and be so well received. The character of Hologram, the idea of it is something that I had thought of many years ago. And I thought this would be a really, really exciting presentation for a young luchador. And when we started AEW, this was one of my original ideas. And fittingly, the luchador that we interviewed to play Hologram is Hologram. We brought him in when he was a teenager 4.5 years ago. And it was right before the lockdown, right before we started doing all the shows in Jacksonville during the pandemic. And he got locked down in Mexico. He wasn't able to travel up here for a long time. And then I thought about it, and I really wanted to still bring Hologram in, and he was available. So I thought it would be awesome to develop this character. And I think that he's totally capable of being a big star in AEW. And so far, the reception for Hologram in AEW has been fantastic. And I think it bodes well for him and hopefully more new, exciting young stars.
I imagine that's a rewarding experience so at work, because you conceptualize a character where a lot of the free agent signings, they'd been performing under other names, or they came from the indies and they had kind of set characters. Are you anticipating that, considering your experience with this, it's something that you're probably going to be doing more of in AEW, creating original characters?
It's a great question, Mike. I think it has to be something that really works. And that's why this has clicked so well. I think it has to be a really strong idea. And in this case, I felt like this was a great idea that I wanted to do for a long time. And I think the fans really like it too. So it does feel great. But I'm always happy whenever the fans pop, whenever the fans are happy about something, it makes me happy. And right now there's a lot of good stuff going on in AEW. We were the #1 show on cable on Wednesday night for Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS this week. And anytime we rack up the #1 spot, it's a very good thing for us, especially with all the things happening right now. That's excellent timing for us for many reasons. And Hologram, in particular, is one of the young stars the fans are really clicking with right now. Hologram's mostly been wrestling on our Collision shows, Saturdays on TNT. We recently, on our Wednesday night show, Dynamite on TBS, our flagship show, recapped his progress for some of the fans who hadn't seen him on Collision. They got to look at him. And he's definitely somebody we want the fans to keep an eye on, because I think he can be a great young star for AEW.
All right, rapid fire here. 10 seconds or less on the answers. Doing a show at the Sphere, Dead & Company. I know you like Dead & Company. They wrapped up a residency at the Sphere. Have you talked to the Sphere about possibly doing any shows?
Through my management company, Activist Artist Management, like you said, we represent the Grateful Dead, the Dead & Co., great artists. Have had some conversations about that, but I think it's a long, long way away. There's a long line to get into the Sphere.
All right. That was actually close to 10 seconds over there. Guardian caps in the NFL. They aren't the most fashionable thing, but I imagine you have data, and I've seen reports that it actually does prevent head injuries. It's been approved for game use. There haven't been many players, Jonathan Taylor, like the first star player that tried this out in a preseason game. What is your data telling you, and do you think that there might be a day in the NFL where this is more normalized and pretty much part of the new standard uniform?
Well, I can't speak to whether it'll become part of the standard or normalized, but I do think it is definitely more safe. All the data speaks to that. My father's on the health and safety committee of the NFL, and in the ownership meetings, there's been a ton of data presented on this that says the Guardian cap really makes a difference and is safe.
Is a Super Bowl ever going to come back to Jacksonville? Full disclosure, I'm now a legacy media member, and people didn't have the greatest experience with the first Jacksonville Super Bowl experience, citing infrastructure and the venue itself. But you're pumping a lot of money into this area. Are you eyeing another Super Bowl?
Well, that was 20 years ago, and a lot can change in 20 years. It'll be well over 20 years that's passed since that Super Bowl by the time the Stadium of the Future is constructed. And we're all really excited in Jacksonville about the Stadium of the Future. So I think that future is yet to be unwritten.
You've been on the record, and you can take 15 seconds.
It's yet to be written.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
It's yet to be written. If it's unwritten, it's unwritten now. It's yet to be written.
I like that Natasha Bedingfield song.
You know,
so
you know what I was trying to do.
Yeah, we all get there. It's words. It's hard. So, Tony, I want to ask you about tampering. You can take 15 seconds for this. You've been pretty feisty on the record when it comes to WWE reaching out to contracted talent. There's all sorts of rumors out there about contracted talent presently flirting with WWE. Look, the sausage gets made in several unique ways in wrestling, but do you think, since you've gone on record trying to check WWE on some of this tampering stuff, it's gotten better or there's been no change?
That's a fascinating way to phrase the question.
Well, because I imagine you did it with intention. Like, you were a very thoughtful dude. So, like, you putting it on the record, like, stop tampering with my guys, you're sending a clear message. I'm wondering if it worked out.
I don't think that it has. I think that it's still happening. And I will reserve all rights when it comes to that, but I don't think that it's stopped. And I'll leave it at that if it's okay, but I think that'll get people talking where you probably accomplished what you were trying to do, Mike.
Yeah. I gotta always have one clip that goes a little viral. I tried it with Barkley. I'm not sure I quite got it there, but I think I got it with that one. That, or maybe 2 minutes too long on the hologram character. Maybe that one will go viral. We'll see. That was like my nerdy. I'm allowed one nerdy question, Tony. All right. Well, best of luck in the Premier League season. Best of luck in the NFL season. Best of luck with All In. Man, you're doing probably too much. Do you binge watch shows? That's a question for another day. Tony Khan, thank you so much. All In pay-per-view, August 25th. It's always going to be a great show. And if it is indeed the final match for the American Dragon, no one does send-offs quite like AEW. They knocked it out of the park with Sting, so I imagine he'll meet the moment. Tony, thank you for your time.
Bless you, Mike. Great to see you. Thanks for having us on today.